Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Market Check, brought to you by BB. There is no second best daily YouTube live stream to talk about markets. Happy Friday, guys. This will be our last show of the month of May. Once again, just another thing very hard to believe how quickly this year is already flying by. We brace for the June monthly candle, right? Maybe getting some manipulation around that right now. We're going to talk about all of your favorite assets, of course, the coins, maybe some equity markets as well. But first, I'm Tommy. You also know me as Snorlax. I'm joined by Max and Prometheus. We should be joined by Louis as well later on this show. But yeah, we're gonna have a great stream for you guys today. Before I can get started more formally, I'm just gonna go ahead and get the elephant out of the room. I'm gonna ask if you guys. I'm not gonna beg, right? Because it's Friday. I'm sure we're all, markets be damned. Fridays are always, I think, worthy of having a great mood. If you guys could hit the like button, we would obviously be very, very appreciative. And you help us keep the lights on here at BB. Continue to bring you guys this content every single day. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into things. Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's flat on the day, right? We're kind of waffling between that 110 level, 105. I mean, we've effectively been in, I would consider it probably a range for the last 2 or 3 weeks on Bitcoin, or at the very least, it looks like that's kind of what we're carving out here near the highs. But really, Bitcoin's been bleeding for the last week and a half, and it has been crushing altcoins, most specifically Sol and Sol Beta, right? I look at things like Sol BTC and Sol ETH really struggling to get themselves off the mat. And, I think about something like Sol ETH specifically. I do think that's still going to probably, we lost Prometheus and Louis. And when I think about something like Sol ETH, that to me looks like a pair that's going to come down materially really throughout this summer. Sol BTC, the downside will likely continue, but is, I would say, mostly completed at this point. However, Sol ETH, I do think, is signaling a regime shift, at least for on-chain assets. Some of you will love that. Some of you will hate it. Obviously, but yeah, as long as Bitcoin is kind of just doing this bleed pattern off the highs, you're going to see altcoins struggle a little bit to gain traction. Obviously, equity selling off here into the end of the week, isn't super supportive as a backdrop for altcoins either. I kind of think this is just some reversion from, NVIDIA's earnings pump that we had 2 days ago. We've basically just retraced that. So I think equities will be a lot more telling probably next week, but I kind of am expecting equities to remain boring here for another few weeks. Most of the action this summer should be happening in crypto, given that we're pretty close to that time of the year where fund managers and equities are going to want to take extended summer holidays, right? Like, that's kind of a meme that June and July are dead for equities, just because you often do see that effect. And I would imagine, especially after the first half of this year, you're going to have some fund managers that really want to go on vacation. So
but
probably
can they afford to go on vacation?
Yeah, that's a good question. But yeah, all that to say, I think most of the action is going to be in crypto for the next few weeks, right? We are seeing some bleed off of all-time highs. You're probably going to see altcoins remain weak until Bitcoin is definitively into price discovery. But what I do like to see personally is that, the second strongest major in the market is not Sol, but actually ETH. I think that also sets the stage for probably some thematics that we're going to see this summer. And yeah, I mean, that's really kind of my introduction to to start the show, guys. I'm still kind of personally biased towards that we maybe see a little bit lower here to open this new monthly candle before we go higher, but I'm going to lean into that June options positioning for Bitcoin, which is still very, very bullish, and targeting 120, 130K by the end of June. How are we doing, guys? Happy Friday. Any weekend plans that we're looking forward to? Obviously, I accidentally just unplugged my monitor, but yeah, what are we seeing in the markets, guys?
Yeah, I mean, obviously everything's on a cliff right now. I mean, from a weekend's plan standpoint, going out into the woods, boys. We'll be on 1G 1 bar satellite cell phone reception. So don't know how to feel about that going into this weekend, expecting a lot of volatility. But
damn, you're doing that going into a bullish weekend? That's pretty crazy.
You say bullish weekend, Louis?
I did.
Well, I feel like maybe you didn't get the news this morning that this is a new bear market. Hang on, let me just for the audience, I know that you know this, but we had 7 green weeks in a row. And then this is a red week, which actually confirms that this is going to be worse than the Great Financial Crisis and the Great Depression combined, and also the tech bubble collapse. So I know that maybe this is new information for you, so I'm sorry to startle you this early in the morning, but you clearly didn't get the news that this is the start of a new bear market, Louis.
Yeah, I've been away. I've been unable to kind of stay on the pulse of the market, if you will. But I always keep track on Twitter and the Discord, and just keep an eye on everything. And I was actually a little nervous to come back this morning to take a look at the charts. From the sentiment in the market seems very bearish. Seems like we're going a lot lower. And I turn on my charts this morning and I see Bitcoin flirting with all-time highs. I see ETH holding up beautifully well for a 6 or 7% pullback on Bitcoin. Sure, some alts have been bleeding, but that's just the nature of the market until Bitcoin goes into full-on price discovery, which we're flirting with. So I'm not really sure what all the banter's about here. I think things look great. Pullbacks are expected when you put in this type of rally in just a month or two. I think things look great here. It looks to me like Bitcoin's trying to flip the all-time highs from January into support. That's all it looks like to me.
I kind of view this as just chop before price discovery, but we were talking about this concept yesterday. James Nguyen is a perfect example, right? I mean, he's basically liquidated most of his trading capital. It seems like at this point, who knows? We won't speculate too much on that, but like people are levering up into an all-time high break when a lot of signs are pointing towards that being a high probability outcome here for the next few weeks. And, especially on altcoins, these people are getting carted out of the market. I can only view this as ultimately a healthy sign. Could that pullback get more exacerbated? Sure. I think I'm going to say it again. I think we probably pull back into the new monthly candle early in the monthly candle and then rip out of it. I'm not really looking for some of these deeper targets like 90K, for example. I think that's probably a little bit too much, but that's I think more so because I'm personally bullish on the month of June, rather than maybe in a few months down the road. We can be bullish again. I mean, maybe we're bullish again in a few months, but I think June specifically, right? Like it has the very positive option structure. We talked a lot about it on yesterday's show. I'm just going to continue to lean into that.
Well, it's really reaffirming for me to hear that you're not expecting like 90K, Tommy. I like that. I like that. I like a cautiously optimistic Tommy. He's my favorite kind of Tommy.
I can still see a 9 handle. Like, don't get me wrong, but
99 is fine. That's okay.
90,
you can have 99.
A little too deep for me.
Yeah,
like 97, 98, like 99. I think that's been an obvious pullback area.
Yeah,
it's been an obvious.
So like weekly and 3-day FEG.
Yeah, and that's your shove spot. But sadly, people are in alts. They've been, they were all euphoric. They're ready for the bull run. They got nice runs off the lows. We're seeing some bleed over the last couple of weeks. If you get that if they haven't panic sold already, you get that pullback on Bitcoin. People are going to be panic selling right into probably what is the last dip before price discovery, right? Because I saw someone say price discovery one more time. So I will say that. And that's just how markets work. That's just how markets work, sadly.
Someone thinks that Prometheus and I are brothers, or we look alike. So here's the thing: is I'm actually 6'4" and he's 5'9", so we could never be brothers. Okay. I'm just kidding. We flipped that around. We don't really look that much. I mean, maybe to the faces a little bit. I don't know.
I think the beard is yours is a lot fuller than mine.
The scruff.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
someone's saying June is the third worst month for Bitcoin. Did you know that, Tommy? I mean, did you guys see any of the seasonality?
Not the first worst. It's the third worst.
Hang on now. Q1 was supposed to be bullish.
Right.
Yeah. Wait.
By the way, I was propagating that as well, so don't come at me too hard. I know. I was writing seasonality, and then Trump said, you guys like tariffs? And then that didn't exactly happen. But I don't know. I mean, every which way I look at this market, like structurally, we're in a high time frame uptrend. I know we're slowly losing a little bit of local momentum here after 7 green weeks in a row, but we're in a high time frame structured uptrend. Markets don't move up in a straight line as much as we'd like them to. In hindsight, they look like they go straight up in a straight line, but they never actually do. We're cooling off here. We're cooling off here. I mean, there is a nightmare scenario that I'm entertaining, which basically is like summer ranging, and basically, we spend the next 90 days doing literally nothing, which would be horrible, right? Because that's apparently all that we do now is spend 8 months ranging, mark up for 2 weeks, then 8 months ranging. I'm hoping that doesn't happen again, because we've done it like twice now this cycle. But I'm viewing it at this point like a lower probability that we're not significantly higher by like middle of July, even like early July, truthfully. I agree with what Tommy said. I'm watching a very particular level around like 102 for me. I'm open to it going slightly lower, but as long as we maintain high time frame market structure, we're above all of our significant high time frame VWAPs. Like, I care about like the 30-day, the 60-day, the 90-day, the 6-month, the yearly, like the significant VWAPs, which we are above every single one of them on Bitcoin, even the 30-day. For me, it's like, how could you could spec, right? It's like, you could basically just spec it and be like, oh yeah, like we haven't lost structure, but like we're going to. Okay. All right, that's fine. Like, you can do that. But like, to say right now, high time frame structure is cooked, we're going so much lower, feels a bit premature to me, given that we're not even below our 30-day VWAP. We're not even below it. We're not even at it. We're still technically above it. The trend is so strong right now. So again, you could spec it and be like, we're going to, we haven't yet, but like gut feeling, we're going to, and you could be right. Sometimes that works. You know what I mean? But structure and trend are telling us something different right now. That could change, but as of right now, that's what it's telling us.
Yeah, and kind of touching on that seasonality aspect, we've kind of, it's funny because this is something we've talked about on the show, I think quite a bit, but 2022, 2023, 2024, all respected seasonality basically to a T. Q1, Q4 were bullish. Q2, Q3, you were better off literally just taking 6 months off, more or less. But this year, I mean, we've seen obviously a distinct difference. Q1 was actually very bearish. Q2 has been very choppy thus far, and I know many people want to lean into that sell in May, the summer doldrums. Those two type of thematics for how we should be behaving realistically over the next few weeks. I kind of think that, we're just going to continue to defy seasonality. I am not in the summer range camp. I think I said this yesterday. I don't really see any reason for why we should be. Maybe when we look back in 2 or 3 months, it looks choppy, but I agree with you, Max. I think, we trade a very reflexive, when you're trading a very reflexive asset class, obviously you're going to be a lot more sensitive to these lower time frame moves. But I do think Bitcoin is going higher this summer. Whether we get some sort of reversion move in the fall, I don't know. But I do think at the very least, June for Bitcoin should be very bullish. And then, Mercury and Gatorade second half of July, maybe a little bit more time to be cautious.
What flavor Gatorade, Tommy?
It's a good question. Orange. I know a lot of people don't like orange Gatorade. I personally love it.
I don't drink Gatorade anymore. I feel like I haven't had a Gatorade in like 10 years because, like, you know, they branded it as like the fuel for athletes. And I was like, I am an athlete, peak performance. And then turns out it's like horrible for you, you know, and like no real competitive athlete would actually drink that. Turns out water is way better for you, but shocking information. I'd love to get some charts up on the screen. And Prometheus, you look locked in right now, man. Like your pupils are dilated. You look just dialed into the chart, man. I'd love if you would do us the honor of presenting some visuals for us.
Yeah, let me throw my chart up here. Yeah, we are just scoping out. I mean, I got to get the screen time in before I'm gone for the weekend. So
before you go fight a bear in the woods or something.
Yes.
What we're doing, we're bear hunting. Yeah.
Wrestle some snakes. All right, I got mine up. Are you able to share my screen?
Oh yeah, hang on one second. See, it's down there. All right. Dude, what is that giant box above us, Prometheus? We're going way lower, bro. Like, so, like, I mean, one more sweep of the low of 75, you know, one more sweep of the low, right? What?
Yeah, no, I mean, we're targeting fresh new lows down here at 65K. I thought that was that's the camp we're in. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of crazy, you know, I mean, what we're seeing across the timeline right here right now is a lot of this, people calling for this to be a deviation, you know, drawing this as one massive range. And let's see here. Drawing this as one massive range, right? And viewing this as our broader range, and for us to be doing something that we've seen last year. And we talk about conditioning a lot, especially in these markets. It's something that I first kind of mentioned, I think on Spaces, but study Pavlov's dogs, right? Market makers are strategically conditioning the market to think and believe in a manner in which they want the opposite, or in which they are positioning in the opposite direction or bias of retail, right? So we had the 8-month death range, we'll call it, of last year. You know, people getting chopped up to bits, descending trend line from the highs. You know, deviations, we can call them deviations on both sides. People expecting some form of price action and some form of, you know, we call it market maker manipulation, whatever you want to call it, in this kind of fashion. But if we really kind of zoom out here, and we look at this range in comparison to the range that we're currently in, right? We had our big expansionary move up, similar to what we had here. Then we had distribution at the highs, just like what we had here. You then have reaccumulation, just like what we have here. And now what we're starting to see, just like what we had in the previous range, is a breakout of the trend line, or a breakout of resistance, similar to here, with now a back test, similar to what we're getting. And if you remember pre-election back in November, everybody calling this as a deviation, a manipulation of the highs, shake everybody out of their positions. We don't trust this. This was just a sweep of liquidity, yada, yada, yada. The market's topped. We cyclically were ahead of, you know, the expected cycle. And where are we headed next? Everybody's expecting 39K. Just like what we have right now on the timeline. If you're paying attention to what people are saying across the board, this is a deviation. This is a sweep of liquidity. We don't trust this move, yada, yada, yada. Right now, what we're getting is very much from a sentiment perspective and from a market positioning perspective, something in that, along those lines and in that camp, that this is not a move to be trusted. But I am, just like I marked out here, we have essentially had an accelerated, ranging environment over this past since the beginning of this year in comparison to what we had last year. And now, if you look back last year, we had the market structure break. Market structure breaks back bullish, just like what we had down here. Market structure breaks back bullish. You're stair stepping up. And this is a strong move off the lows, guys. This was a monster move off the lows that we had. So to see some form of pullback here is to be expected, right? I don't think you should be oh so worried, oh so in the camp that, we need to go away for the entirety of summer and that it's over. This move has showed a ton of strength, like Max pointed out at the beginning of the show. We had 7 weeks of nearly up only. To see, manipulation, a little bit of a manipulation at the highs, bait people into longs, bait people into alts, bait people into, 100x longs to, for that expansion higher is nothing new in this sector. Is absolutely nothing new in this sector. We should expect nothing less of market makers at this point to see some form of local manipulation, come back, right? Backfill, sweep potentially some of this liquidity that we have stacked up here at 100 to 102K. Backfill this inefficient move, this FVG potentially at the lowest at 97 to 99K. And then what happens? Pavlov's dogs, conditioning. We don't believe this. This is over. What are we doing? This is a double top. This is a 2020, 2021 double top. We're going to head lower and then get complacency shoulder before lower. But no. You must understand the momentum of this move and the overall high time frame direction in which we're headed. And where am I targeting? 120 to 130K. That's our 1618s pulled from the daily and weekly ranges. I think that's your next stop. And then once we get there, then we really, then we'll kind of break down what price is doing back up there. But locally speaking, if you're trading the lower time frames and you caught this move, great. But I truly think that this is no more than market makers getting in everybody's heads. If we look at the total chart, not total two, right? Everybody's looking at the total chart. Oh, we get this break of this descending trend line. We're heading higher. Psych, just kidding. We're going to come back down. We're going to raid these lows, sweep this liquidity down at 3.15 trill. And then that's the next move higher. Generally speaking, in crypto, if we zoom out on the higher time frame, the first attempt to break, high time frame resistance is not the move, is not the expansionary move higher. This is just no more. What we're seeing here locally is just no more of, you should be used to it at this point in this asset class. It's not like TradFi, where TradFi has, clean, first time, easy breakaway, expansionary moves higher into new all-time highs. That's not the name of the game for crypto. If we look at Ethereum here, Ethereum showing a ridiculous amount of strength, especially if we just zoom in on the lower time frame. I posted this in the channel on the Discord, in my channel on the Discord. If we look at Ethereum in comparison to Sol, which we'll do here in a second, structurally, yes, we did lose that 2600 level. You have a little bit of a breaker block, a little bit of support here at 2500, something to watch out for. A little bit of local distribution here, no big deal. Where should we be targeting? High time frame liquidity. Okay, you get 2460. That's your spot to hammer longs, in my opinion. The deepest that we go is maybe backfill some of this inefficiency down here from 21 to 2300. But in this trending environment, I would be very, very, very shocked if we do see that. If we do see a larger pullback in the broader markets, then it may take some, longer reaccumulation period to then head higher. But until then, I am in the camp that ETH is showing strength. You've got to pay attention to it. And I don't want to be in the camp now that I am, all bared up on Ethereum. Ethereum's a horrible asset. it's the most cucked asset in the crypto asset class, yada, yada, yada. No, you must pay attention to the strength. This is, in my eyes, you know, I think as low as you really go is sweeping these lows at 2450, and then it's really time to target higher. We have the distribution up into supply. Once you get that sweep higher, I think we're then, we're going for it. Solana,
most
definitely
asset in Prometheus, or in crypto Prometheus, I had to point it out, isn't ETH anymore. It's Solana.
It is Solana.
I think we talked about it a few weeks ago, how I'm going to start FUDing Sol like I used to FUD ETH.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at, Ethereum versus Solana here,
I think Sol ETH gets repriced to 0.05 like very soon.
Tommy.
Very soon.
All right, tell me this, and it's kind of a soft toss, right? But the Sol ETH pair looks questionable at best. Cliff dwelling. You mentioned earlier in the show your bias for Bitcoin. I don't know your bias for Bitcoin dominance, which is, I guess, where maybe we need to clarify here. But are you expecting the Sol ETH pair to break down off of Sol exploring lower prices?
Both. I mean, I think what's probably going to happen is Sol is going to dump a little bit harder than ETH. Maybe ETH ends up catching up to the Sol dump from a percentage standpoint. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think ETH will rebound dramatically better than Solana will.
Well, that's kind of what I was asking, because Jack has posted this chart that Prometheus is showing. That looks concerning for sure. Obviously, for my own bags, I'm trying to gauge accurately to the best of my ability using the resources that I have available to me, including you guys. By the way, Prometheus, love that you're using my indicators, man. I love to see them in action.
Dude, they're fire.
Like, spaghetti, bro.
Straight fire. I love this RSI indicator down here. This is clean.
Do you like it in Heikinashi or normal candles?
I like it, and I think it's just personal preference. Yeah, it's just Heikinashi is nice because it just cleans them up a little bit. But I mean, this is very, very nice, especially for people who aren't, super affluent in, reading RSI and yada yada. It just simplifies it. It makes it so much easier to read, and there's just less noise with it. I love this RSI indicator.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, real simple tweak on a solid old school indicator that's very reliable. Oh, and the Symphony, man. I mean, what are we talking about? But anyways, what my nightmare scenario here is that Sol having been kind of the leading L1 of this cycle, right? From like low to high. At least for L1s that are not brand new, right? I know there's been like new L1s that from late 2023 until now have outperformed Sol. But I'm talking about like legit large cap top 20 L1 type of L1s. Okay. My big concern looking at the Sol ETH chart is trying to make sure that Sol ETH collapses, if it's going to, off the back of ETH finally catching a monster rotation, not ETH nuking and doing what ETH's been doing all cycle and Sol nuking more, right? That's what we need to make sure of.
I don't think that's the regime that we're in. I think it would take something pretty dramatic to make that, probably the reality. I just think, if we get into a situation where, I mean, let's say Sol is putting in a deeper higher low or a deeper double bottom within its market structure, right? And I can see that. I would say that's probably what I favor at this point. And ETH can bounce back much more quickly and the pairs just get absolutely annihilated. I kind of feel like that's what we're about to see. To be honest, is ETH outperformance this summer. It's just going to crush Solana. It's also why I am going to continue to speculate that the next like big meme coin, animal meme coin, is going to probably be on ETH. I've been tweeting a lot about it. Yeah,
well, I mean, we've kind of been waiting for that moment because every every week's new generational ticker that ends up getting Solana back to, you know, zero. They all,
that's a good verb for it, Solana.
Yeah, I said that last, it was 2 nights ago in the Discord. Someone was like, you should join us on a certain Sol ticker. And I looked at the chart and it's just like, I don't even need to show it. You can picture it in your head. You've seen it 1,000 times. It launches, it goes crazy, and then just boom, right? And I call it getting Solana, right? Because you just see it every single week. But
launch coin coded.
It's not even to pick on any project because it's just there's so many of them. But ETH really it's been much more difficult to find the action on ETH. Not that it hasn't been there at all. It's just besides things like Pepe, or we've had a handful of, you know, runners back in like, you know, early last year in Q1 into Q2 last year, we saw some ETH outperformance, right? I'm still holding all my ETH bags, right? You know, things we bought at, you know, sub 5 or 10 million, and they're still multiples higher. They're cooked right now because ETH is cooked for now. Things can change super quickly. But, you know, it's like, you're probably right to suggest that like there will inevitably be, because of the abuse of the abuse that happened on Sol this cycle. I think there's going to be that inevitable kind of flight back to, dare I say, quality, or flight back to something that's maybe a little slower moving and more sustainable, right? I know everybody likes to complain about like the ETH gas fees and like, you know, it's so slow. And I'm like, man, like that's bullish at the right time. Is like slow transactions and expensive fees is bullish, you know, and that's sometimes what you want, right? But I think you're right on that, Tommy. That we're going to see.
It's always about the relative opportunity that you can get on these chains, right? I mean, Solana outperformed ETH because we didn't have enough capital, native capital, to pump ETH like we did in 2020 and 2021. And so we've had this whole reflexive narrative that Sol is better than ETH and going to kill ETH, when in reality, it's more so that the hot ball of money that we typically use to pump everything that's not Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has been largely institutionalized at this point. That's, you know, it's very easy to tell where Bitcoin supply and demand is going to continue to come from. But for altcoins, Bitcoin dominance has just been marauding higher the entire cycle. But, you know, ETH, as a byproduct of that, has underperformed Sol, because Sol has just kind of become the preferential Bitcoin beta of the cycle. It's been easier to pump, and there's been more opportunity on chain to make money. But those opportunities on chain, you kind of touched on it, like on them being Solana, they've just kind of become purely value extractive at this point. And I think everybody is more or less caught on, and new launches that have any potential hope of getting traction are just getting cornered by the same people every time. The corners, they just want to pump and dump. Again, it's just pure value extraction. So I think the inevitable response will be probably to look for new opportunities on different chains, a return to tradition. I like Wabi's thesis that a lot of the new AI stuff is coming to ETH.
That's interesting. Well, it's certainly going to be interesting. I mean, it's like, you may not agree with it listening to this, but looking at the Sol ETH pair should probably tell you that there's a decent chance that what Tommy is suggesting is spot on. It comes down to like the charts at the end of the day. And if there's going to be a big rotation from Sol into ETH, which if we look at the Sol ETH chart, it hasn't happened yet, but it looks a little concerning. I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that we're going to see that big rotation. I mean, it's been looking distributive for a long time, to be fair. Maybe this is just one of those structures that just never breaks down. It's possible, but it looks.
It's been known to do that.
You know what the worst part about this structure is to me is not the structure itself, but it's what caused the all-time high of it.
Yeah, fully.
Like when Trump coin launched, it was fully. That was the top. And we talked about this on the show. It's like, if Sol is the casino, what's a bigger catalyst than Donald Trump launching a shitcoin on the Sol casino, right? You know, so it's like not just the structure, but it's the catalyst in which formed the pico top of that structure, which makes it 10 times worse to me. personally.
I think the only narrative that could possibly top that is like an actual meme coin super cycle, which I don't think we've already had. I think it's coming down the line. No, I do not know what the cause will eventually be. Maybe it's just Solana's price eventually appreciating and us buying into the meme coin super cycle again. I think meme coins will still do fine, by the way. But, if we're talking about like Sol drastically outperforming ETH, that's probably going to be what's going to have to be the catalyst at the end of the day. But hating on Solana, I think, is still a very hated trade because there's so many people trying to catch a lottery ticket there that, when you insult basically the chain that they're trying to do that on, there's going to be a certain level of tribalism. But I think by the time that people kind of catch on to the fact that the regime has shifted, that like the reversion on Sol ETH will be over. I think it's going to happen probably in its entirety this summer.
Let me just say this. So someone in the comments, just to be clear on what we're talking about, this is a pair chart. So Sol going to new all-time high this year. This chart could break down and Sol USD could still go to new highs, just to be super clear on what we're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, this is not anything against Sol USD. Like if Bitcoin goes up and the whole asset class is going up, it's going to be one of those rising tide that lifts all ships, and Sol is going to probably go to new highs. What we're talking about here is like if Sol goes to Prometheus has a fib drawn at 417. Okay. Let's just say at 420. That's what from here? I don't even see the price of Sol. Is that a 2.5x? Something like that?
160%.
Okay. So it's like a 2.5x ish. Okay. So if Sol goes up 2.5x, it could go to 417, 420. Okay. But ETH might go up where Sol goes up 2.5x. ETH might go up 3 or 4x, right? And that would cause the Sol ETH pair to nuke down, where you might not care or feel it because Sol is still ripping. It just means that we might be in a regime where if Sol ETH is about to break down next month in a big way, it's likely going to be off the back of ETH probably ripping up to like 4K in like 3 weeks. Okay. And that doesn't mean Sol USD has to go down. Furthermore, I would strongly suggest and think that if ETH were to rip to 4K in the summer, like June and July, you probably see Sol pushing new highs as well, right? It's just that ETH would percentage-wise, likely be whatever Sol is doing, slightly outperforming. If that's going to be the cause for the breakdown of Sol ETH, right?
Yeah, it's just the manner and the velocity in which the move occurs, right? That's what the pair chart is essentially displaying there. Yeah, and I mean, locally speaking, you can't deny looking at the Ethereum chart, especially if we zoom in here on the lower time frames, the strength that it is showing versus the other majors. I mean, you can't deny that. I mean, Solana's equivalent is down here, right? So Solana's pressing these lows where ETH is barely breaking down here. And you're starting to see large scale institutional adoption from ETH, and not in like some joking, like, oh, pump my bags manner, like some real deal ETH adoption, which I believe is going to continue to occur. And to, I think, Max's point he made earlier, maybe it was Tommy's, that rotation from what we saw previously this cycle, from the casino gambling mentality to more of a fundamentally driven flight to quality. I've been calling for the better part of a month and a half now. And I agree with that take because of the extraction that occurred on Solana, because of the now concentration of liquidity on Solana. You have most people have an adverse reaction to Sol on chain now. If you go and you talk to 9 out of 10 people who have participated in the Sol trenches, likely their take is, oh, I'm never going back there again. Oh, I'm never going to touch anything on there again. Or, oh, like that just like I just lose all my money when I go there, And so because of that, people don't want to mess around on Solana anymore. Like the pumps that it has, it can sustain less and less and less of a bid now, right? And so you're starting to see this rotation to, right, quality names, right? And I think it's just going to continue to occur, because that's the thing with the casino gambling narrative and mentality. When you go to the boats, right, and you have a spot that you like to gamble at, and some new cool shinier spot pops up, it's more fun to go there because it's louder, because it's brighter, because the games are bigger, because the games are better, because there's more people, yada yada yada. And that is the equivalent of Solana. All it takes, truthfully, is something that's bigger, louder, brighter, more talked about, has more mind share, for Solana to lose a lot of its current mind share. And I'm not saying that Solana in the future can't do something great. I'm not saying that Solana can't go to new all-time highs like we have marked out here on the charts at 420. But in the meantime, it's going to take a larger accumulation. It's likely going to take, there's likely going to be a shift of liquidity for that new narrative, in my opinion, to really spin back up on Sol. Now, if you get QE again, if you get massive printing, if you get people receiving, checks in the mail from the government, then this could perk back up, relatively quickly, and you could see that Sol ETH pair continue the rising channel that we've been seeing for the better part of this cycle. But until then, you have a structural shift in the dynamic and how liquidity is behaving in the space.
Yeah, I think it's a simple like supply and demand thing as well. Like on top of everything that we've talked about, at the end of the day, when people were using the Solana network as much as they were in the back half, or really the entirety of 2024, when price or sentiment of price is positive, dilution really doesn't matter. But kind of when that tide comes back in, when you get a little bit more selling pressure, when people start to leave the chain, which I think we're beginning to see. I don't think we've fully seen that dynamic play out yet. It's like you said, Prometheus. I think when you talk to most people about Solana, it's like, well, I hate it there. I only lose money. But at the same time, I have to gamble there because there's nowhere else for me to really go. I don't think we've truly seen people leave the chain yet en masse. But I do think all of these things, like from a supply and demand standpoint, they're going to weigh on price. People leaving the chain and money not coming in is not going to be inherently bullish on Sol outperformance. I actually think we could be in a scenario where, ETH gives us a huge repricing, maybe even back towards the highs, while Solana still sits in this range. I kind of feel like that's where we're headed over the course of this summer. But I'm not saying Sol is like topped. Let me also say that before I'm misquoted. I just think it's not a Sol summer.
I remember last cycle we had Sol summer. That was fun. I didn't really participate like I would now if we had something like that, but I do remember Sol summer pretty vividly. It was funny.
You should have done AVAX autumn. That was my favorite.
Is that real, or are you messing around?
No, I mean, it was like a Avalanche Rush in 2021, August, September, and I guess October a little bit too. But
I'm like so out of the loop with everything like AVAX related, but it's funny.
I had a friend that told me to like buy a shitcoin on AVAX a few weeks ago. I don't even know what the pricing is. I'm almost kind of scared to check.
I've been there before. We've all been there where you buy something, you're like, I'm just gonna check in like a week.
I gotta forget about it. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
I feel like we're gonna get some volatility this weekend, though.
Fully.
Well, we need to do. They need to save the weekly candle just a little bit. It can be red, but we need to do there's a little bit of work that needs to be done on the weekly. It looks a little uglier than I think it should. Like, I'd love to see a little more wick to the downside than the upside. You know what I mean? Just a little bit. I'm fine with the red week. We had 7 green in a row. Red is fine. It's going to be a future, future order block when we're above it. That's going to be great. But we need to do just a little work. Like if Bitcoin could just close at like 106.5 or something, fine, easy, no problem. Give me 1,000 points. A little bit of work to do this weekend.
Yeah, I can see it.
I think we get a quick buyback on any downside.
Yeah. I don't know. These are opportunities to buy altcoins. Like I feel like this is like your last dip, and it's just how I feel, man. It's just how I feel. If you look at every historic bull run in crypto, and you look at altcoins, how they looked right before the markets flipped the switch, they're all going down. And then they go whoop straight up. Like, look at every single altcoin from last cycle. You're not going to find maybe a couple, right? Maybe a couple. Most of them were bleeding and then boom, elevator up, and that's just how it works. But people are too hyper focused on the day to day. This is I think we're on the precipice of a massive run here. And just not worth it.
I want a little more from you on that. Give me some specifics here, man, because the charts are pulling back. People are completely unhinged after Bitcoin ripped from, even altcoins that are like pulling back, right? We have altcoins that are still up 100% from their lows like 30 days ago, and people are completely unhinged right now. So the market looks heavy, right? People are behaving kind of similarly to how we would expect. But like you're talking about a shift to a historic run here, while sentiment is kind of slowly flipping very, very bearish again, right? I'm not talking about calling for 97 or 98, like a flush and then higher. I'm talking about there's quite a few people that, to be fair, I would say that most of them have been mostly sidelined. Okay, like mostly like out of the market for a while, but talking about sell and may go away will be no different than previous sell and may go aways. Some are chop, but then here you are talking about a shift to a historic run. Could you be a little bit more specific in like, are you talking about starting next month? Are you talking about starting end of summer? What are you talking about? Let's talk time frames.
Time is the toughest part, right?
That's why I asked it. You're an expert,
right?
Mr.
Right. From what we've seen this year so far, I would say this summer, we probably see it start this summer. I really like what Tommy's been talking about. I was listening on to the market check yesterday about those options. That sizing and that where people are sized in on the options calls and stuff like that. But even without that, you have Bitcoin flirting with all-time highs. You have ETH, recapturing massive market structure over the last couple months. It's going to be here, right? It's going to be within the next couple months, right? And I love the fact that the seasonality is not on our side, because guess what? It was on our side in January, right? And we were playing the seasonality, and that didn't play out. And now the summer rolls around and it's like, oh, well, the seasonality says everything should be bearish. Sell and may go away, blah, blah, blah. Well, it works both ways, right? If, the Q1 after a halving year is usually historically bullish, that did not play out, right? So if you're going to say seasonality is out the window and then halfway through the year come back and say, oh, well, summer or, June or bearish, historically bearish for Bitcoin and crypto, I'd say, well, guess what? Seasonality has not been followed this entire year. So I love that, because we have a chance and have an opportunity to kind of catch the markets off sides. And I think we're setting up for it. I mean, the writing's on the wall, right? Crypto's here to stay. Coinbase getting listed on the S&P 500, that's huge, right? Like crypto's not going anywhere, right? So unless we have some major like black swan event, which if you're trying to predict or play a black swan, good luck. You're gonna wreck yourself. We're on the precipice of crypto emerging as an asset class and maturing and taking that next step. And if it's going to happen, it's going to happen at some point this year. If it doesn't, we might have some time, right? But I mean, I'm similar to you, Max. I play these markets super high time frame, right? I've been long since 2020, the bottom of 2022. Sure, some intra trading in between. Sure, taking profits, rotating stuff here and there. But a majority of my portfolio has been long since 2020, the bottoms of 2022. And I'm looking to play that into the end of this year, early next year, minimum, right? And then there's some stuff I'm not going to sell at all, right? There's some stuff that I hold that I will hold for a majority, of the rest of the next couple of years, depending on what happens. But, seasonality too. Looking at Bitcoin, right? If you look at the timing of Bitcoin from Pico low to Pico high, right? The last two cycles, it's been about 1,050 days, 1,060 days. We're still on track for that, right? Bitcoin is still well on track and doing exactly what it always does. Sure, intermediate moves. We were a little early. We had a major, we've had multiple, time-based consolidations here, but Bitcoin's on track to make, its Pico top, in, September, October. Right. So I'm definitely looking at that as some sort of timing. I don't know how the cycles are going to be, though, right? Because we have new players in town. We have big money. We have institutions. Sure, we're going to get pullbacks. Sure, we're going to get bear markets. Do we get the 70-80% correction, the year and a half long reaccumulation, then a year-long bull market? I don't know, right? But timing suggests, as far as Bitcoin, which is still well on track, people are saying Bitcoin or all crypto cycles are over. I'd argue and say, no, Bitcoin's exactly on track where it should be. That puts us at a blow off top on Bitcoin, somewhere in that area. So that gives us about 5, 6, 7 months of runway, and we could have a massive crypto alt run in that timing. So in my eyes, somewhat soon, right? I think it's probably going to be this summer, catch a lot of people off guards. If it's not, and we have that boring summer, guess what? I'm not going anywhere. Maybe I'll make some small, portfolio moves here and there, but I'm playing the high time frame trend. That's to the upside right now.
Yeah. Well said. I guess I'm hoping we don't have that ranging summer. I mean, I think we're gonna know really soon if we are in for a boring summer or not. I think June will be very revealing. Like we should be higher. Like the June monthly candle should be green and very green. If it's not, see you in August, late August, September, right? We have to just kind of get through another 3-4 months, which would suck. But at this point, it's too early to call. Structure still intact. High time frame momentum is up. This is the last Friday of the month, right? We'll see, we'll see what happens this weekend, but it's like looking at the whole picture together, I can't be like, I can't be over the top bearish this structure yet. It just feels premature to me. But Prometheus, what's the spaghetti doing?
Spaghetti action. Dude, it's crazy. I looked at this the other day. How perfect the 365-day VWAP marked the Schmiko bottom.
It's so clutch
every time.
It's so clutch. Yeah.
And what we really want to see is this 60-day and 90-day VWAPs start to curl back up above the 180-day VWAPs, similar to kind of what we did back here. Remember how we talked about it earlier on the show, the manipulation, similar to what we had pre-election, everybody not believing in the move, come back down into support. These VWAPs starting to curl back up, and then you get expansion. I'm kind of in the camp, like, I mean, I would love to see it go for it here and now, but I do think there's a little bit more downside in these charts, and I want it to happen. I just like rip the Band-Aid off, get it done with, And, and then I think we're just primed for higher, whether or not you sweep this liquidity at 100 to 102K or come back down into support and leave it, leave the FEG or whatever. I mean, we'll obviously see, but, I'm just like, get this move out of the way, because I think if we do, do a real slow, bleed down here, it's just going to take a longer time, a longer reaccumulation phase to occur.
We probably come down to like the 6-month VWAP, the purple one there, That's probably where we'd come down to and spend like 30 days at least dinking around, ranging down there,
Could you imagine sentiment when, or if we're back down at 91K?
Dude, I'd personally be very upset. I would be like, what has happened to my asset class, man, where we literally range for 8 months and then rip for 2 weeks. Like, that's horrible, man. That's not okay. Like, I'm going to move over to trading equities, it's terrible.
I kind of think,
that's gonna happen, to be clear.
I kind of think we're going to rip in June and then spend the rest of the summer pulling back, probably. Altcoins maybe catch a bid second half of, or like, June. Yeah. Altcoins probably catch a bid in June and maybe like the first half of July. And then we get the real move that everybody I know is ultimately in crypto for and spending all this time waiting out this cycle for in Q4.
Yeah. No, and a big reason too, and something I've been paying attention to fairly closely, is funding. I mean, I posted something on my timeline, I think last week, about it, but usually when funding on BTC gets super, super hot, like that is the like high time frame top for like some time. And we did not get that on this move up. We did not get that, super overheated funding. And to me, this is not indicative of a top, right? The structure we're in, the move we've had off the lows, the accumulation down at 70K. Yeah, I'm just like,
I love that people are bearish here, man. I love it. That's
yeah.
Like, if people were overly bullish, I mean, obviously, like a week or two ago, I guess they were, right? But even then, it was like kind of pretty quiet.
Yeah,
like Bitcoin was really pushing above like all-time highs, and like it was relatively quiet. That's great. That tells me we got more juice.
I agree.
Like, how many people are actually positioned for us to go right now?
Me.
And go on like a run? Yeah,
Me.
We're a select few, but like, how many people do you think are actually, like, after everything we've seen over the last 3 or 4 months? I'm sure some people dabbled. Yeah, some people dabbled. Some people are half in, half out. Like, maybe they're playing leverage, getting chopped to bits, losing all their money, selling their spot, chasing leverage. Honestly, that would be the most comical outcome, is we go like in like a week or two, and it just boom.
I think that there's definitely people that are trading this market, but I think there's a lot of people, and this is a bit anecdotal, so take it for what it is. But I'd be curious on your thoughts on this, Louis, because of what you just said. My feed on X, it's like they are Bitcoin's at the highs, and they are like aggressively rooting against Bitcoin here. Like, nothing would make them happier than Bitcoin to go to like 85K again. And they apparently want to buy the dip, but I know if we got there, they'd be calling for the end of the cycle. So it's like, what's the point? Right. You're not going to bid there anyways. But are you seeing something similar? Is that why you said what you said?
I'm seeing that exact thing. I'm seeing deviation. I'm seeing fractals from the 2021 top. Just to know, we've never had a similar top in Bitcoin's history. It's always been different. So if you're going to take the last cycle top and be like copy paste, like, do better. I'm seeing, that was the trap. I don't think I've seen one like, these are the targets for Bitcoin if we break out here and get trend continuation. Like, no one's saying that, and that's what I love, right? So, and like you said, we could still get this, like, that just because we're seeing that, right? Doesn't mean we don't get this pullback to, 98, 99, 100K, whatever it is. But like you said, they're not going to take it anyways. Like most people will be like, oh, we got the pullback. Now this move looks legit. We're going to come all the way back to 90K or whatever. And then the train will leave without them once again. So I'm seeing the exact same thing, right? And it's just like, this was never, and I guess like Prometheus was talking about beginning of the show, it's like that conditioning, right? We've just been so used to getting let down, trapped, that like everyone just expects it now. And eventually that's going to change, and then it's going to happen quick, and people are going to be very caught off guard. So I'm seeing the exact same things, Max. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm actually it makes me bullish that people are so bearish with Bitcoin literally flirting with all-time highs.
Yeah. No, that's real. It's real. And I don't think equities look half bad here either. I think you could do a little bit of work, but I don't think they look half bad here, man. Like, I haven't checked the VIX since this morning, like early. Looked like the VIX was getting set up to maybe get a little bit of a beat down again. I haven't checked it in a couple hours, but it looked like it was kind of setting up for a little crush again. But we'll see if it's bounced since then. I haven't looked at it.
It's pretty
You
flat
have to
on
zoom
the-
in like ultra low time frame. Like, I'm talking like, I mean, hourly. Yeah. Like this morning, it kind of looked like, it looks like we're just kind of pinned. But yeah, I mean, generally, like, we'll see. I'm not suggesting we're not going to be in like a high volatility environment. I think that would be silly. I think you should expect volatility, but I think it's going to be like a bullish trend with big shakeouts along the way rather than another spike to 40 or 50 and like retesting the lows type of thing. That's not what this structure says to me. I still think the market is more pricing in like pain from tariffs, trade halts, than they are like definitive resolution. But maybe I'm wrong on that. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, with VIX and volatility specifically, skew is very much still bullish. But I personally believe we're actually leaving a bullish VIX skew and entering back into a bearish leaning skew. The markets, in my opinion, are starting to realize that Trump does not have necessarily as much power as some may have believed previously. The thought process and sentiment behind, the whole wrecking ball crew and him coming in and 100% tariffs here, is largely, we had at the presser the other day, that reporter asked him about the taco, right? Trump always chickens out.
Why did they piss him off with that? Why did they have
I
to
don't.
do that?
It's probably CNN.
It was probably somebody with a short position open, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally.
And I mean, we currently are kind of I've been talking about it in the Discord, but the lower bounds in volatility. And what that means is you kind of look at it as volatility within a range, right? We're kind of at the lower bound of the range right now. And for volatility to really break down much further, you essentially have to price in perfection at this point. And how do we get away, or how do we get from where we're at now to be able to go lower to where we're not necessarily pricing in perfection, and where we're just pricing in more of a standard kind of market regime where it ebbs and the flows. That's going to come over time, where you essentially, it's going to take time to get out of this bullish leaning skew, to be able to then enter into that volatility regime that we've seen over 21 and 22, and have it be in a bearish regime, not a bullish regime. I just really think the market is coming to the realization at this point that we're not blowing anything up. Trump doesn't have as much power as what we once thought. They want to stimulate the economy. They want to stimulate growth, and a shift out of that whole mentality of we don't know what's going on to, okay, like this is actually a lot more subdued than we thought.
Yeah. Bitcoin taking a little stab at the lows here. I'm kind of looking for this to potentially mark like the Friday low if we can sweep down here and get a quick reaction, but we'll have to see what happens. I think if we could take out those lows, there's like some equal lows, like I'm talking super low time frame, at like basically here 1046. I would maybe like if we can get a reaction, which we haven't gotten yet, maybe look for that to be the session low, but we'll see.
I'm not gonna lie, I do like this price action. And why do I like it? Because like I said, I want us to just rip this band-aid off. Like we're kind of floating in no man's land right now. Price looks a little weak. Come back down into support, come back down into the demand region, market maker, right? Market maker demand, and then look to bottom out. Look for that bottoming structure because the momentum is clearly waning, especially if we look here on the lower time frame. A little bit of a limp meat pattern, but
yeah, I would want to see a quick reaction here. We just took out those two lows. I'd want to see it kind of hold and start to grind back higher here. And then like over the next 2 hours, I think we could put in a nice recovery. But again, it's like I wouldn't take like a scalp long here. I think it's just a Friday. You be patient. We took out a significant low, but like, let's see. I don't think it's set up for some like major cascade. It's like either we're going to hold here or dive a couple thousand points, but it's one of those, I don't think it's going to serve you well to miss the bigger picture type of things. I know we all show up every day and we watch the low time frames and, it can be useful, but we're also spending a lot more time and energy focusing on like, what's the correct positioning heading into June, right? It's the last trading session, I guess we have technically tomorrow, but like, last trading session of May, right? For equities. Crypto honestly has had a very good month, tough week, but really good month. Q1 seasonality was not in the room with us. So I think that Q2 seasonality, the expectation should be that we're, like seasonality should continue to not really matter as much because we were so just out of it completely in Q1. So we'll see what happens, but let's just finish this little move down here, this little shakeout. And like let's get on with the next month, And
yeah,
actually,
I fully agree.
This was an interesting chart. I've been looking at tether dominance combined with USDC dominance too. There's an interesting trend line that I'm watching really closely on here, man.
Where is it at, brother?
Close. It's like from the high, see the Pico top there, like the wick high, not there, but the little shoulder, the baby shoulder to the right of it. Right. No, one more to the right, right there. So that across the highs, like right there. Yeah. I think that's going to be a level that probably plays, truthfully.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was looking for us to run these highs on this pair, which is actually the alert that I just got, if you guys heard that. But yeah, definitely looking, as in confluence of the trend line, sweep those highs, and then ultimately, again, zoom out, high time frame, bigger picture. Where do I think, we're ultimately heading is down here, and that be our, high time frame accumulation on this pair. It's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah. I like that. I've been looking pretty closely at, we're at our more or less our May point of control right now on Bitcoin. which I think is an important level. I guess I'd like us to just kind of hang around this point of control on Bitcoin until, I mean, at least until we get June 1st officially on the calendar, so that we don't have a naked point of control beneath us on the monthly time frame. But yeah, let me see on USDC.
What I do want to see out of this pair specifically, it's 6.7%. Is this be a swing fail pattern? I want to see us come up into here and swing fail it.
Yeah,
that's what I want to see, because if you accept back above here, where are you heading next?
Yeah, we're getting really close to that on stablecoin dominance chart. We're getting really close to that, like, should genuinely like stop moving up right about here, Otherwise, again, you open the door to a much more substantial pullback, which would be not fun, right?
Yeah.
But like, I think you could take out that high, take out that trend line. We're essentially there. I mean, we're really, really close to it. But that's about it, like that is no more than that, no more than that.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I do like this move down, like get it over with. I did not want to see, weeks of sideways price action to get this lower. In confluence with the conference, get it out of the way. Just get it out of the way. Head into June and maybe get, a little bit of bearish price action the first week, and then have that be the monthly low, and just absolutely send us.
Yeah, I could see like the USDT and USDC combined dominance chart at like 6.7.
Yeah.
But then that should be it. So,
yeah.
And on top of that too, looking at USDT, that would probably be 478-ish. That's about it. That's all I'd want to see.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really kind of here, it's like we're basically at these levels,
Right. Because I mean, if we look back, right, at our previous range back in, end of April to beginning of May,
mm-hmm.
What did we do? We came up, swept these highs. Once you swept the highs, that was, look at this as like a little bit of a range in here.
Mm-hmm.
This is our range, sweep the highs, and then go lower. I want to see something very similar, and then have that just crater off a cliff.
Yeah. Bitcoin is now officially at its 30-day rolling VWAP. By the way, it's like basically at it. It's within like 0.25% or less.
Yep.
Big level, right? And by the way, this is the level in which we came down to. We came down to this level in November, right before we ripped. Obviously nothing's ever the same, but just this is a very significant level, right?
Yeah, I just see so many comparisons of where we're at now to this, like us pre-election. Mm-hmm. So many comparisons. Just like one of those gut feelings too, when you get those like gut feelings in the market and you're just like, dude, this is it.
Mm-hmm. What's going to send us there though? That catalyst last time was Trump winning the election. Do we need a catalyst, or is it just
I don't think we need a catalyst. Like this move that we had off the lows, like there was no catalyst, I mean, sure, you could say like, I mean, really, what catalyst was there? So you had some tariff pauses. I mean, there was no crypto specific related catalyst really that we had. Yeah, I mean, I'm just like structurally, I'm just in the camp like we could just go higher. Like we don't need you know, it could be in confluence with equities breaking all-time highs. Because something I've been paying attention to is the options flow on equities, specifically on the SPX. We are seeing tons of options volume come in at 6,000, 6,100, 6,200, and 6,400. And I tell people in the Discord, you've got to pay attention to where the money's going, right? Nothing else matters besides paying attention to where the money is going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's probably just going to be Bitcoin sniffing out liquidity entering the market, you know, before the rest of risk assets catch on. That's, I feel like, kind of been the catalyst for a lot of these recent Bitcoin moves, and why we have been seeing Bitcoin move first. Sorry, my cat is ripping into
So I think we just got some news. Trump rules out reimposing 145% tariffs on China.
Rules out?
So that's good, yeah. So it looks like they nuked it right before that news came out.
I didn't know that he was considering doing that again. I guess that's great news.
What are indices doing?
They dropped and now they're getting bought back up. Study market manipulation.
Yeah, I could see us coming back down into here like 5,700 on SPX.
Yeah.
Or we could just go to new all-time highs. Just make it easy. No, I mean, after the move we saw up off the lows out of indices, I mean, you expect a pullback, right? Because, you know, zoom out, high time frame on equities, you know, when we're in strong trending environments, I mean, you get pullbacks along the way, right?
Yeah.
Just name of the game.
I'm still not super bullish on equity markets personally, but I'm not really that bearish on them either. I just think they're going to range. I feel like it's going to be helpful to just mark out where you think equities are overvalued and where you think they'd be undervalued, and then just probably fade those extremities for a while.
There's a certain individual who is now long again.
Of course.
Before or after that move?
Before, like right before it got not nearly the size, because most of his money's gone now, but he's still very overextended to the long side.
Did he just get liquidated again?
No, but
we'll get him this
weekend. Dude,
I mean, I just
like ayahuasca.
I mean, he got partially liquidated. I wonder if it truly is a scenario in which they need this man to be at
out of the market.
You know, they're like, he's down 95%. That's not enough. We got to clear the guy out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, he needs to do some like an ego death or something. I mean, at some point, just admit you're wrong, bro.
I just think it's a major psyop. I don't even trust he's a real person.
Real.
I mean, Max knows he's real.
I do know he's real. Yeah.
Well, obviously he's a real person, but
no, I know.
Here's how I can confirm he's the real person. I thought maybe it was like a smoke and mirrors thing going on, but when he started being completely like underwater on his giant leverage $1 billion position, and he sold all of his shit coins, Andy, Wolf, Mog, Ticker, Bitcoin, like panic dumping his low caps for more collateral. I know he controls that wallet. That's a wallet that I've been watching for like 9 months, right? From the early Andy days, more than that. And he hadn't touched it in a long time. So I know that that Perps account is 100% the same guy that was involved in all these shit coins last year. Before that moment, there was doubt. But after that, I was like, okay, he controls that wallet. He's losing on this position. He's freeing up collateral. It became pretty obvious to me at that point that this is the same guy, which is crazy. I didn't know he had that kind of money. Well, I don't know. Still, I guess we don't know for sure. But he ran up $100 million account, something I've never done, something none of us have ever done. I mean, I guess it's gone now, but you know.
And it's gone.
It's and it's gone. Yeah.
And it's gone.
You just give it to the bank and it's gone.
And it's gone.
So good. I don't think it's hyper liquid marketing that doesn't. I know there's been some speculation that that's what it is. It's not really the type of gimmick or gimmicky stunt that hyper liquid would pull.
I'm pretty doubtful that it's them. I mean, it was fun to speculate on all that for a while, but I don't think it's. I genuinely think it was just the same guy. Maybe he was bankrolled by somebody or something.
Coin, right? Isn't he like shilling some meme coin now? So like, what, like just a giant publicity stunt just to shill that?
It could have been. Back, you know? It could have been. I don't know.
It's a nice oil chart, Prometheus.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. It's about to giga nuke again. I mean, I guess we can touch on oil really briefly. I think I'm the only person on the team even remotely interested in trading this, but this is a chart that I've been looking at for a few weeks now, and everybody's been like, yeah, the flows in oil are bullish. And I'm looking at the chart and I'm asking myself, really? The flows are bullish?
That's bullish.
Looks terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's about to get nuked. Here's the silver lining I will bring up is that when oil nuked really, really hard in 2020, the market had already bottomed.
Let's throw up SPX below that, Prometheus, if you'd be so kind.
But yeah, that is going significantly lower. Oil.
Can you do it differently, Prometheus, instead of the chart? Like put it up at the. Yeah, exactly. Just so the time is lined up perfectly. You could do it on a new pane.
Gotcha,
like right click on it, move it to new pane. We'll set it up for you. Yeah, there we go.
So you said 2020?
Yeah. The market had already bottomed when oil went to zero.
I see.
Did it go negative, Tommy?
It did.
Yeah, it went negative.
How's that even possible? And why did we not shove that? That's the most obvious shove of all time. Oil goes negative.
Get paid to own it.
Dude, it's free money.
How does that even work?
Like, I actually don't even know. I'm not going to LARP like I have any clue how that even works, but
how do you
even do with the futures contracts? I'm pretty sure.
I know it has to do with the futures because you look at like oil ETFs, they didn't go to zero. But how do you take on risk at negative asset prices? I've been kind of like wondering that.
I know a lot of people were trying to buy oil, and when it was negative, obviously, because they would get paid to then literally have it. And you had to have like special warehouses, and you couldn't be within a certain, space within or distance within the city, and like all this stuff.
You can't own crude oil within 100 feet of a school.
Dude, but they will literally pull up with like a semi truck full of crude barrels and just dump it off at your place.
Really?
Yes, they do that with grain too. Like you literally get like train carts full of grain.
Jeez. I remember reading like a Reddit thread about somebody who like ended up with a bunch of corn or something or eggs. It was eggs that he had no way of servicing. But they're dumped there. I don't think they can I think that's the beauty of trading on-chain oil futures. Is that they can't track you to your location. I don't know how that works, but I'm bearish oil. Enough said.
Yeah, are you playing it, or are you just kind of watching it for like market reads?
No, I'm not watching it for a market read, but I have been kind of bearish oil for a few weeks now. I was short, I think like early last week. I didn't get re-short on the stop run this week, which I'm kind of annoyed at myself about. But I think
what are you using to short it?
Ostium.
Okay.
But I think oil is a really nice short into the end of June, probably.
Are you shorting oils futures specifically?
Yeah.
Dude, the span margin is ginormous on oil futures.
Wait, you mean like the margin requirements?
I mean, just like crude contracts in general are huge.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I'm just on Ostium. I'm just trading CL futures. None of the extra strings attached, but I get points for doing it.
Nice.
Here's my ref link, Prometheus.
Put it in the comments. What's the like button doing?
It's dead.
It's probably dead, man. It's
More
Friday.
More dead than oil is gonna be. Market's red across the board. It's Friday.
Is that a good transition point?
Brutal.
Honestly, I think if I went long soybeans futures, I'm at like the perfect location where I could probably make money off of it.
Dude, ag has just been down only forever. If you look at like all the ag charts, corn, wheat, soy, feels bad to be an ag trader. You think our charts are down bad, boys? Study going down only for what is that? 5 years straight.
Yeah, wow. But dude, look at like coffee. Coffee went like vertical earlier this year.
Coffee is going to go vertical again based on my coffee quant.
Is that it?
I don't remember what the contract. Yeah, look at that thing. Coffee went parabolic, man.
Wow. Same with sugar.
My coffee quant. I actually do have a coffee quant who trades the commodity really well. If you guys know who David Bell is.
Of course you have a coffee quant.
The masculine urge to make somebody my quant who I've never actually had a private conversation with.
There's a lot of that in crypto.
I know. Oh my God, Tucker. Wow, that's a throwback. God, 2022 vibes. That might have even been like 2023, but
geez. What a horrendous ticker name too. Boyle.
I think it's a pretty good ticker.
Gross.
Yeah.
It makes me somewhat want to buy natural gas.
Big oil.
It's natural gas, and I'm not that interested.
We're gonna long some wheat here, boys.
Jeez, they are massacring Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yep. Rip the Band-Aid off.
Rip it.
Let me check a certain trader's position. I think as soon as he's zeroed out, they're going to turn this thing around, honestly.
His liquidation is 103.5. We might have just tagged it.
I mean, we're basically there.
We just dodged it.
Really?
Don't run his liquidation. Let him add more collateral and then liquidate him in a day.
103,480. Did he get partially licked on that?
I know he did yesterday at like 106.
Study getting partially licked.
Yeah, imagine having size that big. That's a nice feature from exchanges, though, that they don't like. If you're in a 9-figure position like that, they're not just gonna like market dump your entire long in one go.
Yeah.
Sweet 102. And we're back.
I feel like we get a local bounce that lasts just long enough for Prometheus to end up in the woods.
Bro,
service, and then they dump it.
Stop it. I was telling, I don't know if anybody's had issues with this, but my Hyperliquid on mobile, the MetaMask won't connect. So I had to throw some funds on over to Blowfin.
I didn't know they had mobile.
Just in case. Well, they don't. I mean, you got to do it on the browser, but.
Oh. I'm usually just like, if I have my position open, I'm away from my laptop. I'm like, here's what it is.
Yeah, forget about it. Solana looks horrendous. Oh my god.
ETH not nuking how like as much as I thought it would, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, ETH looks great.
I think ETH's going to be really fun to trade over the next few days. I am very much looking forward to it.
Tommy, stop it. I'm going to be in the woods. Getting FOMO.
I will say it, like, I hate to be the sole ETH guy again, but you know, people are talking about what they want to long on a pullback, and the basket is still Bitcoin and Sol. It's not Bitcoin and ETH.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to recalibrate.
Yeah. Destruction.
I think all the proof is going to be in the buyback here when we do get a bounce back.
Yes.
Like, watch what Sol ETH does specifically out of this pullback. Whether it happens this afternoon, this weekend, next month, watch that buyback closely.
Mm-hmm.
In my head, I'm picturing Bitcoin and ETH doing like SVB style recoveries. It's gonna be so funny.
You're picturing from here, Bitcoin and ETH basically doing like a complete V recovery.
Not from these prices, but
right
at some point in the next few days.
Love it. Love it.
Well, I think it would be very.
I could use that in my life. I could definitely use that.
Joyful June, Max.
Not chapter 9 June.
Joyful June.
I agree with you. Like, we were talking about this pullback quite a bit, where it's like, I was honestly saying, like, and I still think we could take a little stab lower. I'm still a little split with you, Tommy, on like where we go. I guess I don't really care that much. Like, the end result is kind of the same. The level I've been really looking for is like 102, you know? But I don't really want to see all the lows from like middle of May get taken. I don't. I would prefer that we don't take those lows. Just because I think a lot of people want them, kind of like in November, they wanted those lows taken as well.
Yep.
And they just didn't quite get them. And for me, the only reason I really care if they do or they don't is because I'd love to continue to follow the fractal here, because it's actually incredibly similar. But those lows didn't get taken, and they looked like they were going to. But I'm fine with like 102. I'd love to just keep everyone shorting into that low, looking for the sweep, and then it doesn't come. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. So it's fine.
Should we wrap it up?
It's probably a spot for it.
Oh, shit. We're way over. I wasn't even looking at
We're
the
just
time.
chilling here.
I didn't even look at the time, man. We were just cooking. All right, guys. Thanks so much for being here. Leave us a like before you go. Everybody stay calm. We're not entering some new bear market. Not yet. It's going to be okay. End of the calendar month. We will see you guys again in June. We'll be back Monday with another episode of Market Check. Before you guys go, consider checking out bbterminal.com. The link is in the description below. It is our custom, built by us for you, all-in-one super website. You've got derivatives data, heat maps, liquidation levels, on-chain indicators, portfolio. Literally everything. Portfolio tracking is awesome. Definitely consider checking that out. We have a free version. All you have to do is put in your email to sign up. And additionally, if you're actually ready to get all of the meat and the potatoes, the bells and the whistles, check it out, guys, before prices go up, because if we spring out of here hard next month, when price goes up, if that makes sense. So, guys, hit that like button. Check out bbterminal.com. We're going to run a quick commercial before we head out here, and we will see you guys again Monday for another episode of Market Check. Everybody have a great weekend. Stay safe and take care.
Tired of outdated trading tools, confused charts, dozens of tabs, endless stress? You're not alone. Introducing BB Terminal, your all-in-one command center for crypto trading. Track your portfolio, monitor the markets, stay ahead, all in one place. From chaos to clarity, from struggle to success. BB Terminal.